On a fishing trawler where Shep Clark vents to Harbour Master Lonnie about his wife leaving him. The chat doesn't get far, static suddenly cracks through the radio, and all the boat's electronics start going haywire. Lights flicker, the gear dies. When Shep steps outside, there's an odd sight, seagulls swarming overhead, which almost never happens around Widow's Bay. Then, out of nowhere, heavy fog sweeps in and swallows Shep and his boat whole. Back on the island, a bunch of teenagers are hanging out in a parked car when the same static jumps through their radio. Next, the town's power drops out. Moments later, the ground shudders with a violent earthquake that jolts Widow's Bay awake. Mayor Tom Lofties jumps out of bed, worried about his son Evan, only to find Evan's room empty. The next morning, the blackout drags on. Stores can't open, and Wayne, who owns the Salty Whale, just wants to call it a day. But Tom needs the restaurant up and running because Arthur Lloyd, a travel writer from the New York Times, is visiting. This article could throw the local economy a lifeline. It's already not going well. The ferry has dropped Arthur off, and Tom rushes over to the Historical Society. He finds Arthur in the middle of a talk about the island's weird and disturbing past, witchcraft, vanishings, cannibalism, you name it. Tom tries to change the subject, but Arthur's only interested in the creepy stuff, not the town's pretty face. Meanwhile, Sheriff Betchia lets Tom know Shep's officially missing, and that thick fog over the bay still hasn't budged. Then there's Wick Crawford, the local conspiracy guy who announces that everything, the earthquake, the blackout, the vanishing boat, is all part of a curse dating back to the sinking of the SS Mary in 1877. Tom shuts him down, quickly lying that Shep's been found, just to keep Wick from spooking the out-of-towner. By evening, Tom's doing his best hosting Arthur at the Salty Whale. The dinner doesn't smooth things over, though Arthur pushes, asking if the town's playing up the cursed angle to lure tourists. Tom loses patience and makes his exit. But then the camera lingers behind. After Tom leaves, we spot a hidden iron door in the floor of the Salty Whale. Underneath sits a rusted electric chair, the old wires vanishing into the darkness below. Nobody notices, but it's clear. Widow's Bay is sitting on a much darker secret than anyone's willing to admit. Mayor Tom Lofties is finally catching a break. As he drives into town with his assistant Patricia, he hears that the New York Times has reviewed Widow's Bay, calling it the next Martha's Vineyard. Tom can't hide his excitement. The article might be the town's big chance to turn things around. He even promises a worried cafe owner, who just splurged on a new coffee machine, that business is about to boom. But Tom's high doesn't last long. When he gets to the local inn, chaos has already broken out. Wick is outside, hammering boards across the entrance, yelling at everyone that the inn's haunted and Tom is about to drag the whole town into disaster. The sheriff tries to calm things down, but Tom snaps and calls Wick a dumb hick in front of the whole crowd. Later, the townsfolk won't let Tom's outburst slide. They confront him at a restaurant and challenge him to prove the inn isn't haunted. Their test: spend the night alone in the infamous captain's suite, where rumor says a sea captain lost his mind and murdered his family with an axe. Tom can't really refuse. He wants to put these ghost stories to rest once and for all. So that night, they lock Tom in the suite with a camera to document everything. At first, he jokes around and doesn't take it seriously, but weird things happen right away. Curtains he closes keep sliding open, odd noises come from under the sink, and the place just feels off. Tom completes most of the challenges they give him, but absolutely refuses to crawl into a creepy space that leads to the basement. Then the lights go out. That's when Tom meets William, a strange man who calmly asks him to play cards. It only gets weirder. Later, when Tom finally works up the nerve to check out the crawl space, William slithers in ahead of him and suddenly reveals himself as the spirit of a deranged clown and serial killer from the 1950s. He lunges at Tom in the darkness. By morning, though, Tom wakes up safe in his own bed, with no sign the clown ever existed. The real kicker: when he reviews the footage from his night in the suite, there's no William, just Tom alone, talking to himself the whole time. Still not convinced, the innkeeper Kurt steps inside the captain's suite for just a few seconds. He swears it felt like an eternity. When they open the door again, the room looks like a tornado hit it. Whatever's in the captain's suite, it's definitely not just an old ghost story. At the Historical Society, Jerry leads a group of tourists through a video about Widow's Bay, a little island 42 nautical miles from the New England coast. The video's narrator tries to step out of the shot at the end, but just freezes awkwardly, stuck in place as the credits roll right over him. It's pretty unsettling. The recent New York Times article pulls in crowds. Widow's Bay is packed and the main street buzzes with tourists. Mayor Tom Lofties finally sees life coming back to the town, and he couldn't be happier. On his way to work, he runs into Marissa, a tourist whose street signs have been messed with. Tom offers her a lift and invites her to the town's big inaugural swim. Later that night, Tom drives home and spots an old woman blocking the road. He stops to check on her, but she suddenly snaps. She claws his arm before Tom slams the gas and tears away. The following morning, Tom tells Dr. Morgan what happened. Morgan's not all that surprised and warns him, stay out of the water. Then Rosemary chimes in. The old woman is actually the sea hag, a monster who marks her victims with scratches, follows them, and eventually finishes them off. Tom just laughs it off and heads to the swim anyway. At the beach, Tom joins the inaugural swim. He gets out to the buoy and bam, the sea hag shows up, slashes his leg and disappears. Nobody else notices a thing. Tom's not doing well. He goes to see Wick, who explains the truth. The scratches are like a homing signal. They weaken you, make you hallucinate, and when you're at your weakest, the hag comes for you. Wick tells Tom to stay hidden for 3 days, just wait it out. Tom, stubborn as ever, ignores him. The poison kicks in hard at home. Tom's strength drains away, and he starts hallucinating his dead wife. Then the sea hag bursts in, pins him down, claws at him in the bathroom, until Wick shows up and nails her with a harpoon. She explodes into a gush of seawater. Afterward, Tom's desperate for answers. All Wick says is, "I don't know, you just survive." Marissa is shown as just another tourist, still bitter about Tom brushing her off. On the radio, news breaks about a fire during Patricia's sunset cocktail event. Things just keep piling up. Then everything jumps back 4 days. Patricia shows up here as someone totally different, isolated, overlooked, and barely tolerated by people she used to know. During a wine and cheese gathering, old classmates mock her, basically call her a liar for saying she survived the Boogerman serial killer from their teen years. The humiliation is obvious and raw. You can see she finally hits her breaking point. She needs to become someone else. Back at home, Patricia stumbles on a weird book in her van, Your Turn, Out with the Old and In with the You by Lucy Fors. Sounds like self-help nonsense, right? She can't put it down. The book's advice isn't just generic, it seems laser-focused on her, always hammering home the idea of hosting a killer party. With the book's voice in her head, Patricia finds out barely anyone plans to come to her event. Everyone's headed to Bill Rooney's birthday instead. She snaps. Working in the mayor's office has its perks. She pulls some strings and forces Dale to cancel Bill's party. Now, her sunset cocktails is the only thing happening in town. As the big night begins, Patricia seems a little off, detached, almost robotic as she gets everything ready. Then the true purpose of her self-help book comes out. She stirs together a punch full of creepy stuff, crow's blood, eggs from God knows what. She raises her glass for a toast. Guests drink, and suddenly everyone goes limp. The whole party slips under her spell, expressions drained and minds empty. Things go off the rails. Hypnotized guests wander in a group straight for the ocean, moving like sleepwalkers. Sheriff Betchia bursts in and jolts Patricia to her senses. She finally sees the horror she's unleashed. Decorations now look warped. Her tiara seems to sprout antlers. Something ancient and twisted has hijacked the party. Desperate, Patricia torches the book, literally burns it with her bare hands. The spell shatters. Everyone wakes up, confused but safe. Patricia is wrecked, guilt written all over her face as she walks home alone. On her way, she runs into Tom and Wick. They're still shaken from their sea hag encounter. Tom tells her about a creepy voicemail from Reverend Bryce, so the three of them rush to the church. The scene is grim. Reverend Bryce is dead in his office, an apparent suicide. With a flashback, a nameless man, lost in a blizzard, freezing and desperate. He stumbles across strange mushrooms sprouting from the snow and eats them, clinging to life. Back in the present, Tom announces a town-wide curfew at Town Hall. No more fireworks, none of it. People are angry, especially with the festivities coming up, but Tom isn't backing down. He's mostly concerned about Evan and wants to keep him under control, even forcing him to stay in his office. The tension between them just gets worse. During Reverend Bryce's memorial, Tom, Wick, and Patricia search the parsonage for answers. Tom finds a weird message carved into the wood on Bryce's desk. My eye is open. There's also a handkerchief holding a black mushroom, another sign things are off. They dig through phone records and track a strange contact, the shaman. This guy tells them the mushroom is called True Sight, a local hallucinogen that lets people see things they normally couldn't. Tom accidentally takes some during the meeting. Almost immediately, nightmares come flooding in. The shaman warns him not to look in any mirrors as everything starts to blur and reality unravels. Meanwhile, fireworks burst in the distance and Evan storms home, furious. He and Tom fight, a real, raw argument about control and freedom. Evan refuses to listen and wants nothing to do with staying on the island. Tom, overwhelmed and spiraling, runs to the bathroom. The hallucinations ramp up. This time he sees himself with Lauren on a ferry. She won't respond to him and the scene twists, turning into a dark doorway.